Right. So I'm excited that all of you decided to join Grit Community's virtual event. We host once a month. This is our March event with Rebeka from Kansas City. She was a contributing author of Owning Your Grit, which was, it's wild to think that that was like 3 years ago almost. So I'm excited to have her. She spoke for Grit Community multiple times on various topics. And she's an incredible coach and leader in our community. And as you heard, she has, how many awards have you gotten with Toastmasters?
Several.
Yeah, several.
Several.
Several. And she does some really dynamic work, and she's an incredible mother and wife and just all around incredible woman. So I'm thrilled to have you here today and for you to share your thought leadership with us. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to you, and you should have access to the share screen. So
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Honored to be here as always. Love what you are doing with grit, with honoring women and empowering them and lifting them up. And I love it. I love it. And something that I see a lot in my work as a leadership coach is women not necessarily knowing their needs. We tend to act like we have absolutely no needs, and we just push forward. So that's what I will be speaking with you guys on today. Could we go through and introduce ourselves to one another? Because I know Jennifer knows everybody, but not everybody knows everybody. And so if you could just turn on your mic and tell me your really quick elevator speech about yourself, about 20 or 30 seconds. Amy, can I start with you? Because I see you're unmuted.
Sure.
And Alexia, you're unmuted.
Nice to see you all again. My name is Amy Lemire. My business is AIM Training and Consulting, and I work with high-performing leaders and teams who want to sell more with confidence so they can monetize their magic with momentum. So speaker, thought habit coach, sales trainer.
Amy, you want to pick the next person, and then whoever goes next can pick the next person after that.
Hey, Allie, would you like to go?
Of course, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm Allie Carson. I am the founder and CEO for Movera Coaching, and I help high-achieving professional women get out of their own way and work through burnout, finding balance, and identifying blind spots. So similar work to Amy, I do executive coaching. I work with teams to help them remember how to play nice in the sandbox, and try to help everyone identify workplaces where they can thrive. So good to be here with everybody. Alexa.
Okay, I'm Alexia Keel. My first meeting, new to Grit. I've been watching from afar for many years. Happy to be here. I work for Correct Capital Wealth Management. I do specifically 401k plans for 401k, 403b, so employee retirement plans. Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. It's been a while, so happy to be back and jumping into one of these. Cindy Meeberer. I am the Vice President of Advanced Manufacturing with Greater St. Louis, Inc. And the role is basically helping to grow industrial and manufacturing clusters in neighborhoods that could use some community uplift, community engagement, and so forth and so on. So there's two RFPs we're working on. The one happens to be centered around areas off of Martin Luther King near a center we're building, the Advanced Manufacturing and Innovation Center right near Rankin. We have a lot of partners. We're not doing it on our own. I just get to be the puppet master, which will be a lot of fun.
Very good, Cindy.
Joni.
Good morning, everyone. I work with individuals, teams, and organizations on leadership consulting, as well as women who are ready to move forward in their career journey. So kind of mid-level women to get clear and to accelerate their progress forward toward what their dreams and goals are. And Arinola, are you there?
Yes.
Hi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arinola Solanki. I'm the owner of My Events Party Rentals, a leading Black-owned party rentals here in St. Louis. We're certified by Lambert International Airport as a woman-owned and minority-owned business. I've been doing that full time now for 10 years. Registered 11 years ago. And one of the, I think, greatest thing that I have really enjoyed in the last few years is being part of the G.R.I.T family. And thank you, Jennifer, for setting that up and meeting all of you, including Amy.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. I'm going to share my screen. And feel free at any point to write any kind of questions you have in the chat. If you feel free to write any kind of questions you have in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand and wave and say, what was that? This is meant to serve you. And if it's not serving you, I'm not doing what I need to do for you. So knowing your needs is what I wanted to talk to you about. A little bit about me. I am an executive coach with a focus on leadership. I'm a Townsend certified coach from Concordia University in Irvine. It was a graduate program. I'm actually a graduate of SLU though. I did my work in epidemiology, behavioral science, and health education out of St. Louis University. And then about the time I graduated, most of my professors went over to WashU and started the School of Public Health at WashU. So I feel connected to both places because of the people. But my background and the way I got into all of this is through biology and ecology specifically. And that was how systems work together. It's amazing when you go out into nature, how much is there that shouldn't be there, and how you can look at something that seemingly is perfect and green, and it's not really a healthy ecological system. And it's with those eyes that I come into businesses and organizations and say, these things are healthy and they need to be accelerated. And these are the things that if they're removed, it's going to help the whole system be better. So I say that I help leaders create, navigate change in the systems that matter to them. And so my favorite leaders are women leaders, because women naturally bring a system view to the things that they do. They are interested in their work. They're interested in their community. They're interested in not-for-profit organizations. They're interested in their family. They are always working. There are lots of systems that matter, and they are completely giving themselves into the systems to make them better. If you saw in the previous slide, I grew up on the Texas-Mexico border, a small town that you probably never heard of until this year. And this year it has been all over the news. I grew up in Eagle Pass, Texas, which is the place where Biden and Abbott are fighting. And so it comes up on the news pretty regularly. I grew up there. I grew up playing in Shelby Park, where there's now the concertina wire everywhere. But before this year, nobody ever knew where Eagle Pass was, but now they do. So I specialize in women leaders, especially those who are working cross-culturally or with international populations, because I get it. I see what it is, and I understand the different mindsets that come from cultures all over the world. I myself have worked and been in 27 different countries and bring that mindset when I work with people. So we're talking about needs. Needs are the things that are requisite, that they are required for an organism. And you, my dear friends, are organisms. You are living entities, and there are things that are required for you to live. And there are very specific things that are needed in order for you to thrive. No secret, everyone and everything, anything living has a need. And it is not, we're all interconnected in that need. And it's not, we're all interconnected in that need. As independent as we like to be, we are not independent. And a story about a female triathlete really came to mind. She had been doing race after race, high performing, able to do many, many things with her body, with her mind, just great in every way. Didn't need anybody, right? Have you ever heard of a woman like that? Do you know any women like that? Do you ever look in a mirror and see a woman like that? But she had an injury, and she was not able anymore to do the things that she used to be able to do. And she was mad. She was mad that she had to depend on others. She was mad that she couldn't do all of the things on her own. Until one morning, she was at breakfast and she was just drinking milk and eating cereal because she didn't need anybody's help for that. And she picked up her gallon of milk and she started to pour it into her cereal. And as she was looking at that milk come out, she had a realization. And that realization was this: she did not milk the cow that gave her that milk for her cereal. And then she kind of looked at the plastic and went, and I didn't bottle the milk. And I didn't bring the milk to my house. And I didn't create the refrigerator that's been sitting in. I didn't pasteurize it. And she looked at her bowl of cereal and said, and I didn't plant the wheat or collect the wheat or pound it out or cook it. I didn't do any of that. And I didn't make my bowl. I didn't make my table. I didn't plant the tree that made my table. And as she started to think about all of the things simply sitting in front of her, she realized she had always been dependent on others. And in her mind, where she had previously said, I don't need anyone, she was far more aware of her needs. And she was far more aware of her dependence on other people. So being needy is not a fault, a weakness, or a flaw, or some people might even say a sin. It's just designed. Like, you are designed to be connected to other people. And all living organisms are designed to be connected. So here's a picture of a turtle, and there are sturgeon fish that are eating, it's a symbiotic relationship, that are eating the algae off of its back. They need each other. There's food, and then there's the cleanliness that comes with being interrelated. So all living things, by matter of being a living thing, you have needs. And you are meant to be in relationship with others so that those needs can be met. You are interdependent with your environment and other living things. Any questions so far? Any challenges to the idea that you are interdependent or needy, and that's a good thing? None. Okay. Physical needs, those are pretty easy to see when you are deficit in something, right? You don't have iron, you get anemic, you're just tired all the time. If you don't have magnesium, your brain doesn't work, so much so that it can lead to things presenting like diabetes and high blood pressure, simply because you are deficit in a physical nutrient. But there's more than physical needs that you have as a living thing. You also have other needs. You are limited by yourself, but you are connected to others. And that is a beautiful, wonderful, good thing, because in others, your needs can be met. The places where you are limited, your needs can be met. And in the places where other people are limited, their needs can be met through you. So being needy, recognizing your own needs, and allowing other people to also have needs gives this place where the interdependence can build one another up. You've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it starts out with your very basic needs. You need physical well-being. You need your magnesium, you need your iron, you need your vitamin D, you need shelter, you need the very basic things. You also need safety. And that safety comes along with psychological safety so that you can thrive and move forward. You also need friendship and relationship where you have a sense of belonging and connection in order to move forward. And it all comes up to this place of self-actualization, a place of being able to use the resources you have, limited, but still yours and still good, to give and make this world a better place, to impact the things that matter to you, to stir those passions, to do something about it. And so you get to do this as you grow, and so do other people, and we get to change the world and make it different. We get to make it what we have a vision for. And we get to, I find that to be very playful. It's a place of playing and a place of creating new things. And so there's not a single time in your life stage that you do not have a need for other people. It's really easy to look at a baby and say, oh yeah, they have a dirty diaper. They need a diaper change. They need someone to change their diaper. Or there's a toddler and they don't know how to cook and they need a parent to come and provide food for them. But that same baby and toddler will die if they do not have relational connections. They will die. You can give them all of their physical needs. And if you do not put them in a relationship, good or bad, they will die. They will wither. And you too, no matter how old you are, will wither without relationships. Your body shuts down, your brain shuts down. For people who are older, loneliness can take 5 to 10 years off of a person's life simply from disconnection. So it doesn't matter how old you are, you need relationship with others. One of your key needs. We need one another. So now when you're in relationship, there are 4 different kinds of relationship that you can be in. It has to do with good and bad relationship and good connect or actual connection or no connection. So over in corner 1, this is the place essentially of death, of there is no relational connection because you are cut off from other people. Oftentimes when we've been hurt, we go here because sometimes it feels better to not be connected to anybody than to be connected. But we go to a place of no connection. You can also see this as people turn into their devices and are disconnected from other people. Then there's bad connection. Sometimes this happens because no connection is actually more painful than bad connection. And so we're in relationships. Some of you may have grown up in families where there were bad connections. It was your family, but it was not a good relationship. And so while there was relationship, there was always this badness. You were bad and everything around was bad. And so there's a lot of pain in bad connection, but there is connection. Corner 3 is actually what we see ourselves most often in, and that is pseudo good connection. And that's where we smile and we say everything's great, but we're not really seen. We can only bring our good parts to that relationship. It's a way that we can interact, but there's not really much depth in that quadrant. Pseudo connection can also happen with things, and this is the place where addictions live. It feels better to be connected to something that feels a little bit good in the short term, even if long term it is not helpful. This is the place where we might go to if we're wanting a relationship. Short term, this is the place where one night stands and affairs live because they're all about the short term. It feels good now, but it's not necessarily something that's going to last longer. And then there's the place of real connection, of good, healthy connection. And this is the place where all of you can be seen. This is the good parts and the bad parts, the parts that we kind of try to hide and say, that's not really me. This isn't part of my story. Yeah, in the real connection, all of you can be seen and all of you is accepted as this is the totality of who you are. In this quadrant, you are given full freedom and full responsibility. You do not have to do something in a certain way for others to earn your sense of belonging. You simply have worth and belonging. Failure is accepted in this place of real connection. There's an understanding that sometimes you will do well and people in this quadrant will celebrate you. And there's also a recognition that at times you will fail. And it's okay. The fullness of you can be seen. And yet in all of that, in this place of grace and seeing the wholeness of who you are, you are also pushed towards growth. There's not a sense of, hey, you're just going to sit here and where you are at. But there's a sense of it can be different. But whether you change or not, I am with you and I see you and I support you. And that's the place of real connection. And that spot of real connection fuels your growth and fuels your ability to perform, period. You see, in your life, you produce good fruit, good work. The outcomes of your life can call it fruit. And you can have like this big, robust, healthy fruit, or you can have a tree that produces shriveled, not healthy, little bitty kinds of fruit. And those always come into three places: the things that you do in yourself, the relationships with others, and then the things that you perform in the world. In Jennifer's case, the work she's created with Grit, it's both relationship, but it's also her handiwork. Like, she has created this group and this connection from nothing. And that's her handiwork. And it is big and it's robust, fueled by real connection in many ways. So when you look at the work of yourself, this is your ability for you to have control over who you are, the ability for you to regulate, the ability for you to think, the ability for you to process what has been happening. It's also the ability for you to rest and care for yourself. It's your self-management, self-regulation in its entirety. Your relationship growth is your ability to be intimate with others. And I don't just mean sexual intimacy. I mean the ability to say, this is who I am. This is my heart. These are my dreams. These are my hopes. That's intimacy. And then also the ability to be separate, to say, that's you and this is me. And we are different people. We are separate people, but we can exist with differences. And that allows different people and different ideas to come together. Your whole neediness and inadequacies are seen in healthy relationships and they're accepted. You can enjoy each other, simply enjoying each other in the places that you're the same and in the places that you're different. You can multiply goodness. And I think Grit is, again, a really good example of this coming together, and this something new is birthed out of it. And a recognition that there are things that you are an expert in, things that I'm an expert in, things that Allie's an expert in, and that Amy is an expert in, that are completely different. And you each have authority over your area. I don't need to tell you how to live your life. You don't need to tell me how to live my life. But we can look at each other, and each of us can be separate in who we are. And in that, in the accepting one another, we can also challenge one another to higher levels of growth. So that's the beauty of relationship. When we have relationship, it fuels our handiwork in the world. We can actually use who we are, our gifts and our abilities and our passions to the fullest. We can create and recreate things that we imagine. We can imagine something, which is a vision, and prioritize our skills and abilities to move towards it. All of this happens because we have the need for others. We are fueled by them. And now we can perform in a different way. Okay. And this all happens in our brain. This is all happening in our brain. When we relate to others, and all of the stuff in our brain is just swirling around, and we connect with somebody else, it's almost like we take all this stuff and put it in front of us. And then with another person, we are able to look at it together and go, huh, that's interesting. Oh, that connects here. This is here. This is what's happening. Ah, this is my path forward. And so being in relationship calms our brain so that we can self-regulate, so that we can process, so that we can move forward. And there are 4 categories that we have in relationship too. It's being present, conveying the good, providing reality, and then a call to action. So in these good relationships, all four of these are going to be present in relationship. And they kind of divide into two categories. And that's this: there's a place for grace and there is a place for truth. Grace is that level of acceptance of I see you in the reality of where you are and I have full acceptance for you. And truth is the ability to say, these are places where something can be different. And we need both, but most often we go to truth instead of towards grace. And if you think about this, if someone is always telling you the way it is, if someone is always giving you advice and information, it really cuts off relationship because they don't know you. They don't know your situation. They don't get it. And so going straight to truth actually divides people and does not build relationship. However, going only into grace provides this relationship that is, it has no boundaries and it has no sense of worth because nothing really matters. So all the good things you do don't matter. And all the bad things you do don't matter. So when it is all grace, just like you're great, everything's fine, I just love everything about you, kind of go, nah, really? Okay. So you really need both. And so in the healthiest relationships, you're going to always have grace and truth in those relationships. I'm going to stop real quick and see if there are any thoughts or questions from anyone.
I'm really enjoying this content. Like every slide, I keep trying to take a picture. So.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments? Oh, look, there's a chat box right there. I'll put that over there.
I just think there's something to be said about how you just presented here. Like you can't just only talk about the positives because then you start to bury the really difficult conversations and you can't truly lean in if you're only, have a numbness or an illusion over your eyes as a fog. So I think the real relationships start when you can have those real conversations. So I love this.
Yeah. And it's really interesting with the grace part is as you get to know people, like people will share a little bit about themselves and then they'll share more and they will share more and they'll share more. And it's always this sense of, are you safe? Can I trust you? If I give you this, is it safe? And so this is where organizational culture comes in and your own reputation of being with people, because you might look at a situation and say, oh yeah, they just told me everything about themselves. And then 10 years later, they go even deeper because over 10 years, you have proved that you are worthy of trust. And it starts with the grace, but if it's just grace, no one's ever going to go beyond the surface. Even deeper, those 4 quadrants get broken into very specific pieces. So in being present, it starts with accepting the reality of where someone is at, no matter where it's at. It's a connection without judgment. And then there's attunement, which is emotionally responding to another person. And this is the sense of, I'm going to get down in the pit with you. Man, that sucks. That's your reality right now. Yeah. But it's not like, oh, look at you. You're so, ugh. I get it. I get it. And when someone knows that you get it, that you understand where they're coming from, these first 2 are most critical. And when in doubt, always go back to these 2. And for yourself, if you're not sure what you need from other people, you probably need one of the first 2 or 3. You probably need one of the first 2 or 3. Validation is simply I see what you're experiencing, and that is significant. And it's a validation. And this is a key idea. You do not have to agree with what a person is doing. You do not have to agree with their emotional state. You do not have to agree with their perspective. the validation, the attunement, and the acceptance is simply, this is your reality. And I see that this is what this is like for you. I see that this is what this means for you. And so you connect to someone by understanding where they are at and not assuming you know. And so questions like, what is that like for you, is automatically much deeper than assuming something. An example of this, I had a friend whose parent passed away. And the first thing that came to mind was, oh, that's so hard. I'm sorry. And for some reason, probably because I had done some of this training, I paused that and I said, wow, that sounds hard, but what is that like for you? And the response surprised me. The response was, well, my mom was abusive growing up, so I have really mixed feelings about her death. In some ways, I'm really, really glad. We had a little bit of reconciliation as we got older, but we really don't have a relationship. I don't really consider her my mom, and now she's dead. And I thought, wow, had I assumed that this was a wonderful, loving relationship, and started with a complete, I bet you're so sad your mom died, she would have felt invalidated in her emotional state because it was such a hard thing. And so the acceptance that her family of origin story was one of pain and hurt, and being able to connect with that reality, and it was okay for that to happen, built trust and built connection, and actually provides way later to speak truth into it. The next one with that is also identification. Now, this is really a place where people can mess up because then they make it about themselves. Hey, this is my story. I'm going to tell you all about me. Did you know that my mom, blah, 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 blah. It's like, thanks. I thought you asked me about me. But when you identify, you share a very brief story of your own, 30 seconds or less. You know, my relationship with my mom was hard too. That's hard. That's it. And you stop, because this is not about you, it's about them sharing their story. Other one on being present is containment. This is almost where you are a bowl that holds all of the emotion, all of the big stuff for somebody else. And you don't judge it. If they're weeping, if they're angry, you simply allow it to be. And it's not that you don't, not that you're stoic. It's you just allow them to have whatever the emotions they are, and to see them in the fullness, because so much of our processing and even our emotional regulation comes from being connected to somebody else. And so when we're connected to somebody else and someone else can hold the bigness of what we're experiencing, we go, oh, I guess it's not so big. I guess I can manage it, and I guess I can talk about it, and I guess I can process it, because my emotions are not going to overwhelm you. It's easiest to see as a parent with your children. If a child comes into you, if a child falls while they're playing in the playground, and as a parent you respond with, the kid that fell is going to look at you and be like, I'm not okay. And if instead, as a parent, you go over and say, hey, you fell, how are you doing? They can be like, I'm okay. But it's because they are going to reflect you. If they cry more, it's okay. Oh yeah, that must really hurt. Yeah. But you just contain what they have. And so being present has those 6 different categories in it. And when you're meeting someone and they're telling you something, starting with one of those 6 is going to be the most helpful for connecting with a person. I want you to think back to, over the last few big emotions you have experienced and think about what was happening in you and what you might have needed. So first, just think back and write some big emotions that you've had recently or big emotions you've seen in others. Yeah. So one response was sadness, distrust, fear, and confusion. Does anybody else want to comment in the box? Anxiety and fear, disappointment.
Yeah, I think all of those, I was writing on paper, sorry, old school.
It's okay. Yeah. Grief, joy, anxiety, fear. Yeah. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen real quick. And so in all of these, my chat went away. There it is. So comfort, when someone experiences grief, there was the joy, being able to celebrate. I hope you can see my screen over
My
here.
events. Arinola, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Miss Arinola. It's Ina today.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Being able to celebrate with others. Sometimes we come in, I remember my younger sister got a 78 in algebra back when she was in high school. She got a 78 and she brought it to my parents and said, I got a 78 in algebra. And my dad said, wow, why'd you do so badly? And my sister was hoping for celebration because this was the hardest class she had ever taken. And that 78 showed that she had worked so hard. And so instead of celebrating, which something that for her was a huge win, she felt disrespected and invalidated and not accepted. And so finding out what someone needs when they come to you is critical. And for yourself, when you share information with someone, also recognizing what are you actually asking for? What is it that you actually need? And one of the comments that is often said is that men and women speak over each other. Women just want they just want to talk, and men just want to fix everything. And if you look at this, there's the I'm going to give you advice and I'm going to give you feedback instead of connecting with the emotion. But if you're able to come in and say, you know what, I had a really hard day, I need containment. I need containment. I just want you to listen. I just want you to connect with my frustration. That's all I need. You are able to verbalize your own need, and then the person that you're asking, they can meet your need instead of this mix. And then you both hate each other because like they never listened to me. Well, I didn't know what you needed. Skip that one. Your emotions are like incredible statistician. They take your entire life, everything you have ever experienced, and they make meaning from it. So your emotions are going to be very unique to you. And they consolidate all of your life experience and they take the data of the moment and they process it very quickly so that you can take action. And it actually looks like this. When I say data, this is simply what happened. I got a 78 on my test, right? What does that mean? You're going to have an interpretation. For my sister, it was happiness. wow, I accomplished so much. She labeled it as a good thing. She made meaning of it. And so she wanted to celebrate that her hard work had such a phenomenally good outcome. Now, we all have emotions. And so for myself, I had to start with what is the emotion I am experiencing? Actually, I had to start further than that. I had to start at what am I doing? Why am I doing it? I had to like back into figuring out emotions. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Oh, I have this emotion. Why do I have this emotion? Oh, these things happened, and this is what I think it means. And so whether you're moving forward in your understanding or moving backwards, your emotions are key to helping you understand the meaning that you're making and what you intend to do with that. So your brain feels so many different things. I like all these brain pictures. And the things you need from others are to recognize it. And once it's processed, you can move forward in new ways, whether it's happiness or sadness. I saw some of these written down in here, but some key emotions to recognize. When I started dealing with emotions, I could recognize that I was happy, sad, or angry. That was about it. And then I learned to recognize hurt and finally fear. So I could recognize 3 emotions and then finally 5. But as you learn to recognize emotions, you start to understand what's going on in you. So a loss is simply a bond broken with something of value. You can value good things, you can value bad things. You can, you create a bond also with hopes and dreams and expectations. And so anytime you have a hope or a dream that doesn't come to fruition, you have a loss, whether it's a hope or a dream for your kid doing well. So my dad had a loss when his daughter didn't get an A, right? He had a loss. He needed to grieve it, but celebrate with her. But internally, he had a loss. So a bond with something of value is broken. Anxiety has to do about uncertainty with the future. Overwhelm is simply there's too much and it's together. It's almost like if you could slow down time and separate all the aspects, you could do them if they just didn't come all together. That's overwhelm. Fear is when there is an actual danger or threat to you or to your identity. And so we actually see people responding in fear most often in our culture when our identity is being threatened in some way. Trauma is anything that is perceived as a real threat to you, to your sense of safety or self, and a person felt helpless in dealing with it. And pain is simply a discomfort telling you that something might be wrong. These can also go together, and these are all very unique to you and to your own life situation. I'm going to stop sharing real quick and ask for thoughts on those 6 emotions or those 6 situations. You can write it in the chat or you can say something.
Those are like triggers for me. Whenever I have any of those things arise, I call it the turtle. My MO is to like turtle in and not be around people. But what I need in those moments when I do feel those feelings is I actually have to like push myself out of my comfort zone, share, and then I can start my healing process. So it's almost like having that self-awareness and seeing the signs and the triggers to then be able to put words behind rather than clam up, turtle in.
Yeah. And so what you just described is kind of backing into what's going on of I clam up. And so it's not so much that, oh, I'm overwhelmed, let me reach out. It's like it's the backing into of I'm turtling. Ooh, why am I turtling? Why am I pulling away from everybody? I'm feeling anxious. Ooh, I need to connect. And so that, yeah, that self-awareness helps. And then for the people you love and the people who are around you, when you start to see their coping behaviors, it helps you because you can go, oh, There's something going on, and what's going on, and they need somebody to help them process it, and help their brain become regulated so they can move forward. And so this is a lot of the work that a counselor or a coach does. It helps people regulate and put what's going on in front of them so they can see it and move forward. And it's just recognizing what's happening, what is the story being told, and how to move forward. Yeah. And Amy, your comment about overwhelm, needing to hire more help, it's simply recognizing there's too much. I know all of it. I'm not afraid of it. It can be done. It's doable. But how can it be broken up, or how can it be distributed to somebody else so that it can get done? Yeah. Also, an overwhelm, it helps you, when you recognize you're overwhelmed, it helps you prioritize. And again, recognizing your neediness, which Amy, you said your solution was, I need more help. And when you recognize I have a need because this is too much for me, you can solve the need. But it's not until you recognize the need, until you recognize your own limits, that you're able to find a solution for that limit. So it's not a bad thing to have limits. It's actually a good thing, because when you recognize it, you can prioritize and move forward. Oh. Go back to screen sharing. Might have to
So I
move.
have a quick question,
Yes.
please. Yeah. What emotion would you use to describe a situation where a close friend, someone that you trust, lets you down? Maybe say something to someone else about you and you feel like, you're my friend, you're not supposed to do that or say that. Or your child comes back from school, oh, mom, my friends are talking about me today in class.
Yes. I will share a different screen. What
Okay.
I just heard you share was hurt, but a
Okay.
very specific kind of hurt. Let me share the screen over here. It's a very specific kind of hurt. The hurt is betrayal.
Hmm.
Your daughter felt betrayed. She felt hurt and betrayed.
Okay.
Does that?
Yes.
Okay. She might have also felt mistreated and minimized. And she feels wounded, rejected, and put down. And those all fall under hurt. And so the example I gave before for myself is I could recognize happy, sad, hurt, angry, and afraid. And simply starting there helps you go deeper into what the emotional state is with you. And so if you look at this bottom corner, and I'll show this on a slide, so emotions either give you a positive feeling or an unpleasant emotion. So it's either pleasant or unpleasant, and it's either going to activate and tell you to go somewhere, or the way Jennifer talked about it, it's to deactivate and pull away. And so you can look at the emotions someone's experiencing, and I don't know how your daughter responded. She might have felt very angry because of that, or she might have felt like she needed to deactivate and shut down. Arinola, did that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we just talked about it and I said, you know what? People are going to be themselves sometimes. Just don't worry about it. You know, it
Yep.
doesn't change who you are. And, you know.
It doesn't change who she is. And
Yeah.
so for yourself, being able to provide acceptance because she was rejected is important. But beware of something I call verbal villains.
Mm.
Beware of minimizing what someone has said, because it's a place of speaking truth. It doesn't change who she is, but the reality is her heart is broken. The reality is she is hurting. And the reality for her is, I don't know about your daughter, but when my children speak like that, they believe that everybody in the world thinks the same of them. And so they need that reality to be validated and to be accepted. And because their head right now is the whole world is against me and I am so hated. And so sometimes we can go into these verbal villains like logic and facts. Well, that's her opinion. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really impact you. And so then she feels confused because now it does impact her, but mom just said it doesn't. And so now her trust of you can be impacted instead of, man, that's hard. When I was a kid, I had a classmate who said something mean, and I remember how much it hurt my heart. Super short, I connected and then let it go. What was it like for you when she said that? Well, I thought she was my friend. It feels really confusing when someone you care about and who says they love you treats you mean. And she's like, yeah, I don't understand it. Yeah, it feels like she's against you. Yeah, it feels like everyone's against me. Yeah. And so this is the attuning, this is a skill of attunement. And when you can attune to her and she knows you get it, she can start to solve her problems.
That's true.
So Spock, detective, these are just all ways that we can not hear people around us. I looking at the time and I know we need to move forward. So
I was gonna send you a quick reminder, 5-minute warning in case we needed questions.
yeah,
You're on.
but the tuning response is that hurts. Like this is your reality. And I see you in the fullness. And whether this is a client or a colleague or a child or a spouse, that is so hard. And when in doubt, that's actually what I say. That's really hard. That sounds really hard. What was that like for you? And that just simply opens the door for their reality. And it invites them to share what they can, and it builds trust because you're connecting. I gave you this one. You have pleasant or unpleasant effect that's either going to move you to action or you're going to shut down. Oh, the biggest thing as you learn to recognize your needs, you can actually ask for your needs to be met. This is what I need. It may be, so in my closest relationships, I already know I have all of the grace. They are already present. They don't need to reconnect. I can straight up say, I need your perspective and feedback. But if I'm just full of emotion, I just need you to provide containment for me. I have learned what my real needs are and how to ask for them. And then for others, started to learn to recognize what their needs are. They might say, this is what I need, but that's not what they need. Like what they need is simply to be heard and to be connected with. They need someone to be present, and then they can solve their own problems. So as a coach, my goal is not to solve anybody's problems, is to allow people to be the experts in the things they know to take the path forward. Because I don't know nearly what you guys know. I know that you're an expert and I can help move people forward. So when you recognize your needs can get met. And that's really the key. Is you are needy, you're connected to others, they can meet your needs and you can meet their needs. That's it. Any questions, thoughts, insights? How can I serve you?
Can you share that happiness, that last wheel slide again?
Yes.
Yeah, are you gonna share the slides? I know you recorded this.
Is it this one right here that you wanted? I can share my slides.
Yes, thank you.
That
Yep.
would be awesome. Thank you. This
Yep.
was really great. This was a lot. It was very interesting, and I loved how you brought in Maslow. It's one of my favorite go-tos.
I literally screenshotted like 4 of these slides.
Yeah, I've been kind of,
Amazing.
that's what I've been kind of taking
Yeah.
pictures, so I feel like I'm stealing, but I'm not going to steal it. I just want to remember because your graphics are really good.
Thank you.
I guess one question is, when there's a lot of emotions going on, what is helpful to being able to identify the needs?
Mm,
Sometimes things are happening in real time and it's, I don't want to say easy, but the only opportunity might be is to reflect later and say, oh, this is what I needed in that situation. But sometimes the need is in the moment, and that makes it more challenging.
Joni, can you give me an example so I can respond specifically to your example?
Just
You gotta go. Go.
Hi, Amy.
Hi,
I know
Amy.
we are at time now. So maybe I can connect the two of you guys at a later date and you guys can finish up your conversations.
That works too.
Okay, awesome. I'll make sure to connect you guys. Thank you all very much for joining us today. And this will be recorded. I'll make sure to send you a link, Rebecca, and I'll put it on our YouTube station. And I'll make sure you two have each other's contact information.
All right. Thank you,
Right.
Jennifer.
Bye, guys.
Jennifer.
Bye.
Thank you.